This is the first month of my very first planted tank. In the previous episode we added the substrate, the hardscape, the plants and got the tank ready. This time we're going to be adding some fish and moving forward from there. Before I added any fish, I did want to check the water parameters. I will be checking the water parameters for this tank every single day for 30 days, but that will be in a different video. I opted to add honey gourami initially because of the monsoon season in India where they're from. Their water parameters change drastically at least once a year, so they are a little more hardy, as I will be going with a fishing cycle. As expected, both of the fish did seem scared when they were first added to the tank and they were both hiding under the driftwood, so I decided to turn the tank lights off and the room lights and just sit and watch them. Within 5 minutes, both of the fish did come out of the hiding spot to explore. The next day, one of the honey gourami was definitely more confident than the other and it would freely swim around, while the other one did take a little bit longer to come out for food. Within a few days, both of the honey gourami were free swimming around the tank without issue, and the fear did seem to have totally gone. I was a little curious though, so I added a little bit of food to the tank and set my phone up to time lapse it as I was out of the house for a few hours, and as you can see, they are freely moving around the tank. They're not scared, they're not just hiding under the driftwood or anything like that, so I'm quite happy so far. One thing I did notice is that both fish do seem to enjoy hanging out under the Amazon Frogbit in the tank. A few days later I added 2 Amano shrimp to the tank and I was a little worried that the honey gourami would just eat them. Thankfully both of the gourami just leave the Amano shrimp alone, and I'm pretty sure one of the gourami is actually scared of them. Around the 5-day point I noticed that one of the gourami was constantly picking at algae or biofilm on some driftwood, so I'm taking that as a sign that the tank is starting to come alive and its own ecosystem is developing. I also started to notice that there was some baby frogbit in the tank as well, so again that's another good sign as far as I'm concerned. I'm really happy that I went with honey gourami as a centerpiece fish for this tank because they're so entertaining. Both of the Amano shrimp seem to set up home in one of the holes throughout the driftwood on the left of the tank near the primary feeding spot. It turns out that both of the Amano shrimp seem to really like eating bug bites, and I've seen both of them go over to fish and literally just take the bug bite and try and run away with it. At least one of the Amano shrimp have worked out that I can hang upside down on the floating plant ring and the water flow will push floating bug bites towards it and it can get them without the honey gourami competing with it. For some reason my honey gourami never eat from the surface, it's always the middle of the water column or the substrate. And here's a little more footage of the honey gourami playing tag and having a little squabble with each other. They're just so entertaining to watch. I know it's a little hard to see in this video clip, but I did notice some type of algae or biofilm forming on the tank glass around the day 6 point, so again, it's just another sign that the tank is starting to come to life. I also noticed these little worm things crawling around on the tank glass, and I was worried in case it was something that could harm the fish or the shrimp. Whenever I found one that was large enough to get a good look at, the honey gourami were on it instantly and treated it like it was just a snack. I picked up some cherry shrimp because I really like the look of them, but I was worried that their smaller size would make them another snack for the honey gourami, so I chose to add 2 initially and see what happened. After seeing one of the honey gourami give a cherry shrimp a boop and not eat it, I thought they'd be fine to be honest, but I did want to wait before adding any more to the tank. I added 4 albino Corydoras innates to the tank as I really like the look of Corydoras. I will be adding more, I know I'm supposed to keep around 6, but for now I could only get 4 in the tank. Unlike the honey gourami, the Corys did not care, they weren't scared or anything, they basically went in the tank and instantly started to look for food. Thankfully they found a lot of those worms and ate pretty much all of them, and since I put the Corys in the tank I haven't seen a single worm since. Here's a little clip of the Corydoras shoaling around in the tank. It's pretty cool to watch to be honest, and I definitely want to add more to get their numbers up and increase their confidence. A few days after that I waited until I'd seen both cherry shrimp multiple times to make sure the Corys and the honey gourami weren't eating them before I added the rest of the cherry shrimp to the tank. I haven't seen any aggression from the fish towards the cherry shrimp, but I have seen the Amano shrimp bully them off food a few times. It's more common with bug bites, but I have seen it with shrimp king pellets as well. Unfortunately, I did lose one of the Corydoras, so there's only 3 left in the tank. I think it had red blotch disease. I've seen some photos online when I was researching what happened to the fish, and it did have these weird red marks on its body, and unfortunately, fast forward to today, and it does look like one of the other ones might be having that on its side as well. I was watching one of the MJ aquascaping videos, and he actually used the smaller version of my tank as an example of what to avoid because because of the lights being so bad, so I did choose to upgrade my light. I want to quickly show this because I forgot to record it for the other fish. It's basically a storage bin that I'm using as a quarantine tank, and it's got its own bubbler in there as well as its own dedicated heater. So around a week after I added the Corydoras, I added 10 neon Tetras, and as expected they were scared and hid in the back right of the tank, so I used the same trick as with the honey Gourami and I turned all the lights out in the room and I just left them to do their own thing. Thankfully, the next day, the neon Tetras were swimming around without fear looking for food. One thing I would say is that the activity of the Corys and the neon Tetras does seem to have changed the behaviour of the honey Gourami. They're definitely not as active as they used to be. So a few days after that, I actually thought I was about to lose another Corydoras because I thought she was having a seizure or something out of the corner of my eye. I walked over to the aquarium to see if there was anything I could do, but it turned out she was actually spawning eggs. I was honestly terrified. I thought she was dying. She was kind of on her side against the glass, wiggling strangely. I've never seen a fish spawn before, but yeah, the eggs are on the side and on multiple other locations in the tank, so I'm guessing that's all that was happening. By this stage, there was plenty of algae on the tank glass as I hadn't cleaned it until now. My initial goal was to just leave all 4 of the sides of the tank glass to increase surface area for beneficial bacteria to help it through the cycle, but with one of the Corys spawning, I didn't want her eggs on the front glass and then me to have to clean it, so I decided to clean the front glass now, and then she can go about spawning as she sees fit. Then my new light came. I went with the Nicrew C10. I will leave an affiliate link in the video description if you want to check it out. I'm really happy with it, to be honest. It's very easy to set up and it's got a very easy 24-hour light cycle that I'm happy with. Around this time, I did start to regret choosing Amazon Frogbit as my floating plant of choice, and it's very likely I'll switch over to red root floaters. Trimming the Amazon Frogbit roots every single week is starting to become annoying. They just grow so quickly, but on the other side of that, they are growing that quickly because they're absorbing a lot of ammonium nitrites and nitrates, so it is a trade-off. Unfortunately, I did have another problem, and it is difficult to see from this angle in the photograph, but the table I had the tank on started to buckle under the weight of the aquarium. When I did the calculations, I forgot to account for the substrate and hardscape. I just accounted for water. So I ended up having to go to a few different shops to try and find racking systems that would be able to support the weight of the tank. Thankfully, I found one that's very strong, but it was a bit of a pain to move the tank across. After seeing so many people recommending Repashy gel food, I decided to give it a try, but not one single fish ate it. It's probably user error on my part. I will try it again once I've got more time. But yeah, I tried it and none of my fish even looked at it. With the tank starting to come alive and the various surfaces getting algae on it, the Amano shrimp came out and both of them were seen grazing, which I hadn't seen in a few days, so that was a good sign as I thought they might have actually died. The day after that, both of the Amano shrimp were out again with a lot of the cherry shrimp. I had actually seen the cherry shrimp a lot, but it's usually hiding around the filter or early in the morning or during the night when the lights are off, but thankfully they are becoming active and coming out during the day. I also found more Cory eggs in the tank. I'm not sure if it's the same Cory from earlier, one of the other ones that's spawning now, but there was another set of eggs. As I mentioned earlier, I have noticed the honey Gourami hiding more and more frequently. I'm not sure what's wrong with them. I'm putting it down to there being more activity in the tank, and the Corys are pretty crazy, they're just always active. Anyway, that brings month 1 to an end, and this is what the tank is currently looking like, and I'm looking forward to month 2.